Council.
Jonesboro's community radio station. Your life, your music. KLEK 102.5 FM.
Good Tuesday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. It'll be partly to mostly cloudy. Temperatures today with a few rain showers in the mid-40s. Northeast wind 10-12 miles per hour. For tonight, clouds and spotty showers, and the temperatures overnight 35 to 42. More showers expected Wednesday with this stalled weather front over the region, and the temperature Wednesday in the low to mid-40s. I think we'll see some sun Thursday and some clouds as well in the mid-40s or so. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK 102.5 FM weather.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. The UK has decided to allow Chinese firm Huawei to have a limited role in the build-out of Britain's 5G network. Hong Kong says it will slash travel to and from China because of the coronavirus outbreak. Over 100 fatalities have now been confirmed in China. And a lawyer representing women who claim they were abused by Jeffrey Epstein has urged Prince Andrew to cooperate with an investigation into the disgraced financier.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM, good morning to you on your Tuesday. It's January 28th, 2020. This is Community Conversations. Kid Wonder is in the studio with you. I'm joined by Quabila Jones, host of Community Conversations, and joining us today is Jim Burton. He is a Democratic candidate for the Arkansas House of Representatives, District 58. And of course, as always, we have to give the disclaimer, KLEK am the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. We do not endorse, support, or oppose any candidate for office, nor is any compensation provided for this interview. This interview is provided for informational purposes only. However, we do encourage you to get out and vote. Election day is March 3rd. Early voting is February 17th. Last day to register to vote is February 2nd. So vote, vote, vote. So, Jim, how you doing today?
I'm good, LaCanty. I appreciate you having me.
I kind of come a little closer to the mic, speak directly to the microphone. So
I'm good. I appreciate you having me here today.
All right. So, Jim, just as we always, we start off with just a little bit of introduction about yourself and your background.
Oh, okay. I've practiced law here for 40-plus years. Graduated from ASU and picked up a master's degree in public administration from Memphis State, and then I went to the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, and that's where I received my law degree. Right out of law school, I taught for 2 years out here at ASU on the faculty, so I'm well familiar with the university out here. I was there full time, and then I really started practicing law about 1978, and that's what I've done ever since.
So you've been at this a very long time.
Have been. Mainly my work now is in the areas of personal injury and workers' compensation and Social Security disability. But early on, and I make a point to say this, I'm the only lawyer in this race. I'm the only person in this race who's ever had to prosecute anybody for a crime. I'm the only lawyer in this race, only person in this race who's ever had to defend somebody for a crime. So, particularly in the areas of civil justice, criminal justice, I know my way around.
All righty. Got a Facebook shout out already. Shout out to Derek Coleman, who says good morning. And if you have a question for Jim, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080, or you can leave your questions or your comments on our live feed. So, Jim, after such a long career as an attorney, as you mentioned, you have been on the prosecuting side and on the defense side. What made you decide to run for state representative?
Well, I didn't see that Jonesboro. Well, let me put it this way: Jonesboro, I think, is at a crux. It's at a crossroads, and our growth has been remarkable. But by the same token, growth brings with it attendant problems that I didn't see being addressed. I didn't see anyone in the legislature, on the House side at least, I can't speak to the Senate, but on the House side, who was trying to consciously advance Jonesboro's interests in the sense that, I mean, heck, let's look at the next census. We probably are going to be about 80,000 people. Mm-hmm. Maybe, Lord willing, I'll live long enough to see the place get to 100,000 people.
We're going to claim it.
The momentum is geometric. It's not arithmetic. It's astounding the way it grows. If you look out there on Hilltop, where First National Bank built a new building, I can remember 30 years ago that was Junior and Frida Couch's barbecue out there. When I served as city attorney in the late 80s and early 90s, Mayor Hubert Brodell instituted an annexation effort, which I was proud to help litigate and help go through successfully. And I remember I had one man who'd been an opponent of it made some remark to me to the effect that y'all will never fill up all this land in 100 years. Well, truth of the matter is we filled it up in about 29 or 30.
Well, I mean, especially once NEA was built, you just saw growth out there just explode.
It was astounding, absolutely astounding, and that's just one sector of the city. That's just one area.
All right, Kawila.
Okay. Well, I just want to get into, if you are elected a state representative, what are some things that you want to start off doing to benefit your district that you represent?
There are a number of avenues. I would like to see. We have, and it's just come up over the past few years. If you go back and look at news segments on Channel 8 or any of the radio stations, we have had a spate of crime become much more prevalent than it ever was, say, 10 years ago. And it has occurred with a rapidity that is disturbing and that needs to be addressed somehow. I think that in part of the problem is that while I don't practice criminal law anymore, I do occasionally get over there for one reason or another. And I have noticed that on plea and arraignment days, courtroom is just absolutely choked. It's standing room only.
And, that's something that's been echoed by several of the judicial candidates that have come on.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the things we've got to look at is a distinction in statutory approach to violent and nonviolent behavior. Most nonviolent behavior, research will tell you, is many times an aberration from the norm.
Okay.
That people, given the opportunity, are not likely to reoffend. Now, that's the crux of that question is given the opportunity.
Okay.
Well, the salient feature there is if somebody has been convicted of a nonviolent crime and they've paid whatever their obligation is as a result of that, then I think it's important that they be given some avenue, some opportunity to go rather than go back and offend again. Because if a nonviolent person, otherwise not disposed to criminality, is incarcerated, then that opportunity may be lost.
Okay.
And there are myriad other ways to go about tracking and supervising a person who is nonviolent in the community, in a job, than locking them up, which is much more costly.
What can be done at the state legislative level concerning that matter?
Well, what can be done at the state legislative level is, try to say that 3 times. At the state legislative level, I think the important feature is to expand on some of the programs we have already. For instance, drug court.
Okay.
I mentioned a minute ago, my office downtown on Main Street is right across the street from the Federal Building.
Okay.
And I think Monday mornings, it seems like there's worlds of people going into the Federal Building. And I know they're going in there for drug court meetings. And I would much rather have people who have developed a problem with drugs, because the problem with drugs itself, it's not like they set out to commit a crime. It's a pathology.
Okay.
It's a disorder. And they have to be shown that there is an alternative, first to drug use, and then to the attendant kind of despair that goes along with it, I think.
Okay.
I think these are some of the things that Skip Mooney has tried to address as well through Out of the Dark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are speaking with Jim Burton, candidate for State Representative, Arkansas District 58. Let's see if we have any questions or comments on our Facebook Live feed. We don't, so...
It's back to you, Jim.
Well, then people just...
we can talk about some of the issues. There are several issues that have come up during this race. Just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on them. The first one is issue 1. Issue 1 is about the funding for the highway. It's set to expire, and this is to vote on whether to make that tax to fund the highways and make them permanent. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I hate that we are to the stage with as many revenue sources as we have in this state in particular. I mean, one of the few states that have property tax, automobile licensing, professional licenses. We have a host of taxes. The other side of that coin, however, is this. This city would benefit, and I say this city because this legislative district is pretty well entirely contained within the city limits of Jonesboro. And so I think of it in those terms. Not only that, this is my city. I've been here for 42 years. And I feel a certain proprietary interest in it almost. That said, it's one of those things that we may have to go ahead and look to do, because it has always been my belief that an advancing city, state, requires an ample and flexible road net. And the amount we're talking about here would be almost painful, or almost painless, I should say. And it would simply become something that would recur on a regular basis. My concern is that the Highway Commission spend it wisely. We have an unusual arrangement here in Arkansas. And the Highway Commission, once appropriations are made, it's essentially independent of the legislature, which was done 60 years ago to take highway construction largely out of politics, which I think was a wise thing, and put it in the hands of regional highway commissioners. But right now, in this state, highway construction moves at a relative snail's pace.
From my understanding from the highway department, the individuals for the city of Jonesboro, things move slowly, mainly because of having to submit a proposal, get an approval, but also determining which road or which area needs to be fixed first based on which has been done the long. Like there's the MPO, is it the MPO? I don't think they call it the MPO anymore. It's called something else. But they try to break down why things move the way they do or they don't. And I know people like me on the outside looking in would probably never understand the whole process.
Right.
But I do have a question. For those that are opposed to continuing this 0.5% sales tax after 2023, what would be the other alternative? If the citizens are already paying that tax and it's not creating such a burden now, like what would be wrong?
Well, basically, not just with highways, but with things in general. Of course, you have some people who are just totally averse to taxes. Period. Like, we don't want any new taxes. In fact, I'm sure that if they had their way, they would probably abolish all the ones that we do have. But without funding, the roads would fall apart. I went to Osceola a few days ago, and I actually was on my way back, and the potholes, and I'm not talking about the main highway, I actually took the back way home, even though these were still state highways, but, it was, rough terrain. There were potholes and tore up, the road was just completely tore up. So, I think what Kabila's asking is, if we're not going to raise tax revenue, how do we ultimately fund the essential services of the state, or even do we want to fund the essential services of the state?
Well, that's a broad one.
And this is just a question to ponder for those that are thinking about this issue.
I think that absent the ability of the state to coordinate and apply revenue where it's needed for public projects, you'd have a chaotic situation. You'd have, some counties would step up and provide the necessary funds to do their own roads. But I've driven from county to county in this state sometimes, and I won't say where, but you'd leave one county, and all of a sudden you just might as well be on a gravel road for the quality of the pavement, and it's right there at the county line. Even though arguably it may be a state highway, the counties still have some responsibility for assisting with road maintenance. Now, to get back to what we were talking about, I don't know what you would replace that tax with. No tax is pleasant. Nobody wants to be taxed, but unfortunately, one of the hallmarks of living in a free society is that we've got to one degree or another step up and pay the tab for it.
Get back to go ahead.
I was going to say right now, and we were talking earlier, I think before we went on the air, about the hilltop area here in Jonesboro, how it's grown just geometrically. Right now, with Jonesboro and Paragould essentially growing together, if you drive up through Brookland, it's you're hardly ever completely in the country anymore. Without sufficient highway funding, we won't get a north bypass, which the north side of town desperately needs, because right now so many people just have to drive up 140 down 141 or down Patrick Street into Johnson to come into the city proper from residential areas, and a north bypass would help people out there immensely as far as getting to work, as far as getting to amenities here in the city. We really need that.
All right, Jim, got a Facebook shout out. Shout out to Cade Holiday. Appreciate you for checking in. Derek Coleman asks, a non-violent person received more problem in the job workforce than a person who actually do a crime. Is there a way you can reinstate their records? Most of the people that want to vote can't because of their records. I'm sure there are a lot of people would vote for your party. As 40 plus years of law, would you create a bill for this if elected?
I think you can't say to a person because you made a mistake. And again, I I'd hasten to add, I think the significant feature of this is again in differentiating between violent and nonviolent criminals. But I mean, if somebody's shown themselves to be an incorrigible criminal with multiple violent felonies, I don't know what you do. As far as nonviolent individuals are concerned, then I think there ought to be a program to enable folks to have their franchise, to have their other essential civil rights restored.
Okay. All right. Hopefully, Derek, that answers your question. And, of course, if you have a question or a comment for Jim, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080. Again, the phone number is 870-277-1080. Or leave your questions or your comments on our Facebook Live feed. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead and ask this question, and we'll start it. And if we have to pick it up on the other side of the break, we'll have to. But one thing that actually we're just going to go ahead and pick it up on the other side of the break. But I want to go ahead and ask it now so that you can be working on your response. All right, another thing that has generated a lot of talk and a lot of controversy is Stand Your Ground. Of course, Stand Your Ground was ultimately defeated in the Arkansas Senate, but if elected, it's definitely something that is going to likely come up again in both the Arkansas House and the Arkansas Senate. So when we come back from the other side of the break, Jim, give your thoughts on Stand Your Ground. But with that, we're going to get ready to go into our break. Don't go anywhere. Community Conversations will return in 5 minutes. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
What did I learn from a fight with my wife? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Last night, Susan and I got into an argument. So is this simply a confession? No. I'd like for good to come out of it. So here are the cardinal relationship rules that I broke last night. First, I broke our 9 p.m. curfew on having serious discussions. We're usually tired and cranky after that time, so we shouldn't talk about important topics. Last night, it was really late, about 11:30. Second, I broke the one issue rule. Only talk about one issue at a time with your spouse. I let one small issue become many issues. For the rest of the rules I broke and how I made it right, go to my blog at markmerrill.com. Remember, your family first.
Made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. KNOMEGA1908.com.
Brought to you by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, dedicated to the purpose of achievement. Jonesboro Alumni at gmail.com, Jonesboro AR Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity on Facebook, and Jonesboro_Kappas on Instagram.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Dad? Son, come home with me. Visit the secret panda village? Sleep like a panda. Eat like a panda. I knew I wasn't eating up to my potential.
It's not always easy being a dad, but it's always worth it.
Let me teach you how to belly golf.
Awesome! Take time to be a dad today.
Thanks, Dad.
Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
How long does it take to get to the forest?
That's not far.
What are we going to do? Hike?
Sure.
Are we there yet?
Yep. It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org, brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I volunteer with United Way to help the homeless in my community learn computer skills and build a basic resume. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Americans for Prosperity Arkansas presents the Craighead County Criminal Justice Reform Candidate Forum, Thursday, January 30th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the First National Bank Community Room, 3500 East Johnson Avenue in Jonesboro. There will be over a dozen candidates running for state representative, Senate, and judicial seats, sharing their views on criminal justice reform. The public is invited. More information is available at Americans for Prosperity Arkansas on Facebook.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
Starks Auto Plaza at 2829 Red Wolf Boulevard is a proud KLEK supporter, offering luxury pre-owned vehicles sold wholesale to the public. At Starks, we never say no. 870-203-9980. Details at starksautoplaza.com.
Call a friend and tell them to listen in. We're KLEK 102.5 FM.
The Office of Diversity and Community Engagement at Arkansas State University, under the leadership of Dr. Maurice Gibson, is a proud supporter of KLEK and is dedicated to finding innovative ways to advance their mission of creating a diverse and inclusive environment, conducive to educating, enhancing, and enriching lives, uplifting various and diverse groups on the A-State campus, and striving to maintain Arkansas State University a place that is inclusive to all individuals, regardless of origin, color, religion, socioeconomic status, or sexual orientation. More information about the Arkansas State University Office of Diversity and Community Engagement is available at www.astate.edu/diversity and 870-972-3081.
Major key alert. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com. Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with our guest, Jim Burton, Democratic candidate for state representative for the Arkansas House of Representatives, District 58. Of course, if you have a question or a comment, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080 or leave your questions or your comments on our Facebook Live feed. Before we went to break, Jim, I asked you about Stand Your Ground, so now give your thoughts.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm going to kind of play law professor here for a second, okay?
You going to take us to law school?
Yeah. Under English common law, everybody's heard the phrase, a man's home is his castle. Mm-hmm. Well, the way that developed in English common law was to avoid a kind of a stand your ground, standoff, gunsmoke, gunfight in the middle of the street. Okay. The idea was that if you can retreat from a situation which invites the use of deadly force, then you've always under common law had a legal duty to do that. In the stand your ground law, about the only place that's been tested is, and I can't remember where the case was, but it's I've seen video of it numerous times where two men get in an argument about one of them parking in a handicap space or something, and it accelerates, and one of them punches the other one, knocks the guy down. Before
Florida,
it could be.
Yeah.
Before the man even got up, he's got his gun out and he's put a slug or two in this man and just killed him right there.
In front of his child and his girlfriend.
Yeah, and my thought is, what are the relative equities of that? In other words, why is it so important that you stay where you're at if you're in public, and you could simply get in your car and drive off? You could go ahead and just walk down the block. You're not under threat of immediate bodily harm, and you have other options available to you, rather than just saying, I ain't moving, I'm pulling my gun out.
Well, I think people who are in favor, but from what I just see around the landscape, it kind of goes back to this Second Amendment thing. They think that anything to try to curtail that is basically going to lead to they feel like it's going down a slippery slope. Whereas if this goes through, then next thing you know, they're going to take the guns away.
Yeah, like it's the camel's nose under the tent.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, I don't subscribe to that. I'll be glad to have you come up to the house and see my beautiful 12-gauge Belgian Brownings. Got a pair of them, and then I got a German Stoger over and under. Oh,
and I have no idea what that is, but it sounds like a big time gun.
Well, it's a little 20 gauge. About all I do is dove hunt. I'll duck hunt if somebody will take me. But my point is this: I grew up in Blytheville. I grew up here in Arkansas. I've been around guns all my life, but I don't own a pistol. I have never taken the concealed carry course, which I think, if somebody's going to have a firearm, it ought to be an absolute requirement in Arkansas that you take a concealed carry course, because pistols are dangerous things. You can shoot yourself real easy.
Okay.
Because sometimes it's hard to remember which way the safety clicks.
And we've seen numerous stories of children shooting
Oh,
themselves.
well, that's the absolute worst. If you got guns in your house, you have an obligation to keep them locked up. My son-in-law in Florida has a safe, a full safe in the garage that he keeps his guns in, so that his boys can't, my grandsons can't get to them.
Okay.
They don't know the combination. I think the other side of that coin is that if a person, genuinely feels themselves, either because of their work or where they have to travel, if they genuinely feel themselves under some sort of threat, and they are in a circumstance where they absolutely have to defend themselves, then resort to firearms is justified. But that's so much the exception rather than the rule. And I think the open carry of firearms, especially by people who have not been through a course on concealed carry and have been trained to understand that this is a dangerous, deadly weapon that you have on your person, I think it invites these kind of situations possibly. It's, and I don't know. It's, of course, it's. I think it's something in the male animal, maybe generally, that they feel like they've got to react and retaliate. But I don't subscribe to the idea that Arkansas should be an open carry state, or that we need anything like stand your ground if there are other alternatives to not drawing a gun on somebody. About the only justification for that is if somebody's coming at you with a deadly weapon.
All right, so I'm going to quickly ask this question, and I want to pivot to healthcare, which is another important issue, because this is a candidate that I have asked. This is a question I have asked other candidates.
Okay.
So there are some people who, when they read the Second Amendment, and of course I definitely want your take on this as an attorney, they focus on that clause that says shall not be infringed, which means under no circumstances should a person lose their gun. So when I look at that, I think, okay, so that means that absolutely anybody can have a gun, which means could a child have a gun? Could someone who's convicted of a felony, someone who has mental illness? Because if it says shall not be infringed, could that not literally mean there's absolutely no way possible that anyone could ever not have a gun?
Well, that is the way some people, that are advocates one way or the other choose to interpret it. Now, like most rights, Oliver Wendell Holmes, when he was Chief Justice, was asked about the First Amendment. And in one famous ruling, he said, well, it doesn't give someone the right to yell fire in a crowded theater.
Okay.
In other words, you may have the right to yell fire, but if you do it in there, you create a calamity which goes past your exercise of your rights to injure other people.
Okay.
And there is no reason that, nobody's guns are going to get taken away. I'm in no fear that some agency is going to show up and take my nice shotguns. It's not going to happen. Not in the United States. Even if I chose to have a handgun after taking the course, I'm secure in that as long as I obey the law. I don't see it, and I don't see the slippery slope arguments that get put out about, well, if you do this, then the next thing is you'll have to register all your guns, and the next thing after that, some night, whoever they are, they'll come and take your guns. I don't see it.
All right. We appreciate you giving your insight and your thoughts on that. Let's check the Facebook Live feed, see if we have any comments or shout-outs. If not, then we will pivot on to healthcare, which is also an important issue. Yeah. Derek Coleman says, I agree. Nadine Coleman says, good morning. So no other questions or comments. So let's talk about healthcare, especially the Medicaid expansion. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it needs to stay in place. To the extent that the state can bear the burden, it may need to be expanded somewhat. I'm not an advocate of rolling back Medicare expansion in any respect. I think that when we look at the history of this state in 50 or 100 years, I won't be there to do it, but when people look at the history of this state, they're going to remember that Mike Beebe brought about a significant enhancement of the public health by creating an insurance system, an expanded insurance system that gave about 250,000 people. I think the more precise number is 235,000 is one number that I saw in this state, the access to medical care that the people means. That is to say, the economic means to buy their own health insurance or to be private pays in a clinic or hospital had. And though that is a gift that keeps on giving as far as I'm concerned, because if you've got people who otherwise would be physically too ill to work, to obtain an education, to get out into the community and take part in the life of the community, then that community, that city, that state is deprived of human talent. And who knows what contributions a person who is healthy because they're provided with medical coverage could contribute to society. It's an individual basis. Some will and some won't. But the idea that it strictly comes down to an accounting problem or a dollars and cents issue, I don't subscribe to the bean counter view of life. People are benefiting from it and will continue to benefit from it if it's continued.
Go ahead.
One website I'm looking at, this is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and I'm sure mental illness has been one of the subtopics under, what the Medicaid expansion covers, and it talks about people, individuals rather, who suffer from mental illness issues. Under the expansion, they are now able to get the care they need.
Right.
While previously, some insurances or Medicaid either would not cover or gave them the runaround about what services and medications they will cover. So, and I'm sure mental illness is not the only thing that's covered under the expansion. So for those that are opposed to it, what do you say to them as far as what is the other alternative for meeting the citizens' needs?
Well, I guess what I would say is that you don't have to look far. You don't have to look far to find a family that has been affected by a person with some kind of psychiatric illness. I mean, schizophrenia, for instance, is it's actually a physiological disease, that it's a brain disorder, if you will. And the problem is that when people are afflicted with a mental disorder, again, they are, for want of a better word, they're kind of locked out of society. And if there are medications that will enable people to function in a reasonable way, in a balanced, normal way, then this is no different than somebody with a lung disorder or an enlarged heart. They simply happen to have a physiological problem which causes their mental behavior to be different from everybody else's, and oftentimes different in a negative way, which then bleeds over into the crime problem that we were talking about earlier. I can remember when I was city attorney up here at district court, we had a couple of people go off, just go absolutely bonkers crazy in the courtroom. And I remember one young man who started screaming about Vietnam, and he made a run at one of the deputies or something, and about three of the bailiffs got him and got him down to the floor, and his mother was over there patting him on the head, trying to calm him down. He's trying to bite his mother's hand. These situations are such that if a person was regularly supervising on his medication, in all likelihood wouldn't have happened. And he may not have been able to afford his medication. I don't know. I don't remember. That was over 25 years ago, that particular incident. But again, just to get back to the idea of saying, well, we're taxed enough, and we don't need to have to pay for all these people's health care. Well, all boats rise with the tide, as far as I'm concerned, like JFK used to say. And if you've got a healthy society, you've got a better society.
Or one way you could look at it is, you can pay a little for the sickness now, or pay a lot more later when it's catastrophic and at the emergency room. And by law you have to take them even if they can't afford to pay, and you treat them, and then they go on about their lives and they don't pay the emergency room
That's
bill.
Exactly
Who gets stuck with it?
They don't enter prematurely into nursing care, which it's a tragedy. You expect somebody that's maybe in their 90s or something to be in a nursing home, but it's a tragedy when somebody in their 40s or 50s is in there. Mm-hmm. Absent some autoimmune disease or some illness that they couldn't control.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, the level of public health, is one of those foundation things, kind of like the level of public education, that makes for a good society. So, yeah, I'm strictly on the side of Medicaid.
Okay.
All right, so getting into your campaign, how has that been going? Have you had any events? Do you have any events upcoming?
Well, I've got to get back with my campaign consultant. We're going to try to have a meet and greet, probably the last part of February, a week or so before the primary. I don't have a Democratic opponent, so I kind of sit this first round out. But and in a way, I guess that's given me a little bit of a luxury as far as getting a slower start than my two Republican opponents, who are having to gin it up and try to
battle it out,
try to do everything within about the next 4 weeks. That's kind of unenviable,
You have a little more.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of across the board, at least locally. Each of these Democratic state representative candidates are unopposed. So
right.
So each one of you get the opportunity to just sit back and wait to see what happens on the Republican side.
Exactly.
After March 3rd, then you got to really hit the ground running.
Yeah, it's regrettable that the election laws are such, though, that they stretch the whole election process out over an entire year. I mean, some serious thought needs to be given to some way to more greatly compress these things.
Well, the reason why you have it now, the primary used to be in May, but Arkansas moved it up so that it would be on Super Tuesday.
Yeah.
Pretty much kind of like, that apparently I guess Arkansas wanted to be like the other states. So, this mad rush, I guess on the top level, I guess, it helps to sort out the presidential election as far as like who's going to likely be the nominee of each party. But again, as you mentioned, it kind of hurts more on the local end because now you've got this much longer period between the primary and the general election.
Exactly. And a lot of city offices, city elections around the country, the filing periods are in end of August, early September.
Well, I know it's August for Jonesboro.
For a November election. That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2.5, 3 months. But to have to file a year in advance of the election is I don't know who it benefits.
Probably benefits people with a lot of money who can buy all types of media advertising and things like that. I'm sure. Well, I don't think you can escape TV without seeing a Michael Bloomberg ad. Again, Kayla K, we're not telling you who to vote for. Just that is a factual observation that his ads are all over the TV, no matter how you personally feel about him. We are speaking with Jim Burton, Democratic candidate for Arkansas House of Representatives, District 58. Don't forget, Election Day for the primary is March 3rd. Now, of course, if you are voting on the Democratic ballot, you can just check his name because there's no other name to check. Of course, if you decide to pick the Republican ballot, then you have some other options. Again, Kayla Key is not going to tell you which one of those options you should choose, but we are going to tell you do need to first educate yourself, and you can do that by going on our website, klkfm.org. Click on, let me go to it. Click on media, click on videos, and if you look, it's got all of the interviews laid out nice and neat and pretty. You can just click on each candidate's interview. In fact, when we get off there, we'll have Jim's interview uploaded so you can watch all of them and then step into that booth and make your decision. Election day is March 3rd. Early voting is February 17th. Last day to register to vote for the primary is February 2nd. Also, don't forget, on election day, you can vote at any polling place in Craighead County. So it's easy, it's convenient, you don't have any excuse. Voteless people is a hopeless people, and no vote, no voice. Back in another 5 minutes, it's a Community Conversations on KLEK.
You're listening to
125
Community
FM.
Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. While honest tax preparers provide their customers a copy of the tax return they prepared, victims of scams usually are not given a copy of what was filed. Victims also report that the fraudulent refund is deposited into the scammer's bank account. Then the scammers deduct a large fee before cutting a check to the victim, a practice never used by legitimate tax preparers. So buying into these schemes can result in costly penalties for filing false claims or receiving fraudulent refunds. Be very careful when choosing an individual or firm to prepare your taxes. Honest preparers generally ask for proof of income, they sign returns as the preparer, they enter their IRS preparation tax identification number, and they always provide the taxpayer a copy of the return. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation at gmail.com.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
My name is Dale Pazinski, and this is how I live united. I volunteer with United Way, helping the homeless in my community by teaching computer skills and helping them build a basic resume to save on their very own USB drive. It's huge when somebody says, "Hey man, that job that you helped me apply for, I got it." My name is Dale Pazinski. I help people achieve financial independence. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
What if I could tell you when an earthquake would hit? Unfortunately, I can't. But shouldn't you be ready anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Calling all women and minority business owners as well as the general public. KLEK 102.5 FM presents the Women and Minority Business Showcase at Centennial Hall in the Arkansas State University Student Union. Live broadcast on KLEK and on Facebook. This is your opportunity to show what your business, church, or organization has to offer to the unique, diverse audience of KLEK listeners, supporters, and the Jonesboro community as a whole, or to just check out all the vendors in attendance. Register at klekfm.org. Free admission to attend. The KLEK Women and Minority Business Showcase is sponsored by the Arkansas State University Office of Diversity and Community Engagement. This event is a KLEK fundraiser.
The KLEK 2020 Women and Minority Business Showcase, Saturday, February 22nd, from 10 o'clock a.m. until 4 o'clock p.m. Registration and other information is on our website, www.klekfm.org. KLEK thanks Charles and Candace Mabry and the staff of Mabry Smokehouse for their support of KLEK and dedication to the Jonesboro community. Mabry's offers Texas-style barbecue, beef brisket, pulled pork, ribs, rib tips, chicken wings, smoked sausage, barbecue fries and nachos, sides, and desserts. Located 1504 Red Wolf Boulevard, Jonesboro. Open 11 to 8 Tuesday through Thursday, Friday and Saturday. More info, Mabry Smokehouse on Facebook. KLEK 102.5 FM salutes small businesses. Small businesses promote local character and success, keeping money in the local economy, local jobs, entrepreneurship, community well-being, and so much more. Contact us today to learn more on how your small business could be featured on KLEK for as little as $25 per month. Shout out to St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church, Reverend Perry Jackson, pastor, 716 East Washington, Jonesboro. Sunday school, 9:30 a.m., Wednesday prayer, 6 a.m., Wednesday Bible study, 6:30 p.m. We enter to worship and depart to serve.
Are you struggling with your mortgage payments? Call 888-995-HOPE to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about your options. Or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with our guest, Jim Burton, candidate for State Representative District 58 for the Arkansas House of Representatives. He is running on the Democratic ballot. A quick note, although we did mention that last day to register to vote is in February, that is just for the primary. Now, if you want to register to vote for the general, that would be October 6th. Well, basically, kind of a good rule of thumb to follow any election, you need to be registered at least 30 days before then. So at least a month before. So if you want to vote in the primary, make sure you register by, just be on the safe side by the 1st of February. And for the general, just to begin to be on the safe side, just be registered by the 1st of October. And then that way, you will be good to go. So, Jim, in our final segment, anything that you want to talk about that I mention earlier?
Well, one thing I did want to mention, and this is, it gets back to the crime side and what we're talking about on practical solutions. After I was city attorney, then Governor Clinton appointed me to the Jail Standards Board for this judicial district, which covers 6 counties here in northeast Arkansas. And in the process of serving on that board, I saw some excellent facilities. I saw some that needed help, and we tried to get the ones that needed help, the help they needed. While I was on the board, we were able to get a new jail in Paragould in Greene County. We already had a new jail here at the time I went on the board, but since that time, that jail has been expanded. One of the unfortunate features of all of this is that right now in many county jails in this state, there are people who've been convicted of felonies serious enough to warrant their incarceration, who are backed up because the prison system doesn't have room to take them. And this harkens back to my thought that there has to be a practical differentiation between violent and nonviolent crimes, between people who are likely to reoffend and people who are not likely to reoffend. And you try to divert the latter category to other methods of supervision, and you get them the help with their drug problems that they need through drug court and other avenues. And then, people that have committed some nonviolent crime other than drugs, you can put an ankle bracelet on somebody a lot cheaper than you keep them down in the prison system for a week.
And I was going to ask you, going back to Mr. Coleman's question earlier, what can be done on the state level? If there is a bill already on the books, can it possibly be revised, amended, something else written to counter what's already on the books concerning, like you said, it may be cheaper to have someone house arrest versus.
Yeah. We'll go ahead. But Derek had another question.
Okay, go ahead.
Want to make sure I get it before we run out of time. He says, "What about reducing drug prescriptions if elected?"
What about what?
Reducing the cost of prescription drugs.
Oh boy.
You got 4 minutes.
All right. Well, this is the lawyer talking now. I don't know how you do that when the drugs are they're essentially they're a product in the stream of interstate commerce, and I don't know that one state can constitutionally take on a statutory limitation on drug prices. Where a pharmaceutical producer is doing business nationwide in an interstate commerce.
Maybe join in with other states.
Maybe
power numbers.
Well, I think the thing that could be done if the state wanted to get into the drugstore pharmaceutical business would be, and I don't know how much reception you'd have for that because it's going to cost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. You could have say you had Arkansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma go into a consortium where they had state sponsored drugstores, and they bought the medication prescriptions in bulk and negotiated directly with the pharmaceutical producers. There might be some way to set that up. Now, like I say, I think it's going to be extremely costly and complicated. It's not something that could be done overnight by any means, not just by passing a law that said, you can't charge more than $10 a prescription for X medication. That'd be nice, but what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with an action in federal court that the state attorney general would have to defend that law. In all likelihood, federal court, I think, would be disposed to find that as a violation of interstate commerce.
All right, well, we definitely appreciate you, Jim, for your thoughts, and definitely thank you for stopping by the studio today. And of course, again, we can't stress this enough. Get out and vote. Get registered to vote.
Absolutely.
Registration for the primary deadline's February 2nd. Yeah. October 6th for the general election. So get registered to vote, and then step into that voting booth and make your voice known. And of course, you can go on our website, klekfm.org, to watch candidate interviews from the past. We definitely encourage you to watch each and every one of them so that you can be an educated voter when you step into the booth. But with that, we're going to get up out of here. Once again, Jim, thank you for stopping by, and thank you all for listening.
Happy to be here, Mackenzie. Thank you for having me on.
All right, this is KLEK 102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.